Hello. Let me tell you a story about a badass saint I met uh, in prison. This is the way this came about because I'm because I wrote a series, an action thriller series uh, about a Jason Bourne type character, an anti-terrorist, someone who is fighting against those who would inflict mass casualties on society through weapons of mass destruction, basically bad people with bad intentions. And so this is my character fights these kind of people in the series. And so Chuck Brandt is was because I'm the writer of this series and because everything it all goes through my imagination and consciousness, and so and I have to experience everything that my character goes through, every battle, every fight, every reflection on the people all the violence that he goes through, and the mistakes that were made, and such. And so over time, uh, this began to I began to feel the weight of my character's conscience, and so um, I decided at some point that maybe my character needed a little light in his life. So I had him join the prison ministry in order to just have some light in his life, to give back and to do some good for, just not always fighting and killing bad guys, but to do some good for some people. And so I had him join the prison ministry to redeem his character a little bit. And so I took his example and joined the prison ministry myself. And that's where I met a badass saint. Now, this character, I met him we were holding masses in the prison library. And I met this guy. He would show up at these ministry. He was a little, he would show up, and he was a little standoffish from the other characters that were there, the other prisoners that were there. And so he was he came across. He had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I don't know how to describe it. The guy just came across as a very tough guy, uh, very tough guy. He didn't try to portray himself that way. It's just some things you can't hide. And he was, at the same time, I say he had a chip on his shoulder. He was friendly. I talked to him uh, regularly, and I liked the guy. And but he told me he was a monk. And I thought, wow, that was amazing, because so he told me he spent all his time, and we'd talk. We were in the library. Be talking about various books. He's telling me about all these books he'd read, and he knew more about these classic Christian books than anybody. And he told me he's a monk, and he spent all his time in his prison cell just reading these books and in prayer, just living like a monk. And I thought, well, that's fascinating, that because that's what monks do. They have cells in monasteries, and they essentially, a lot of their time is spent in prayer and reading holy books, and that's what this guy was doing. And so I thought it was fascinating that he was able to. You've got this badass character who's in my mind, he was a saint because he was living like one. And so he wasn't officially a saint approved by the Catholic Church or anything like that. But just I think of him as a saint because he was like a monk. Just what he told me he was. He was a monk, and in the prison. So there you go. That's a story of the badass saint. Thanks for watching. Fight on.